if you fast. It's implied that you will fast. Fasting is a spiritual discipline that can change your life. It really can. It's helped me. I've seen it impact people's lives continually. So it's assumed that we're going to fast as spiritual people. Some of you, particularly those of you from the Catholic tradition, you might ask, what's the difference between Lent and fasting? Lent is a calendar event. Lent happens between Ash Wednesday and Easter, and it changes every year, depending on when Easter is. Fasting is what you're doing during Lent. I'm going to give up chocolate during Lent. That's fasting. Fasting is the choice to give up something intentionally that you would normally utilize or do, but you're going to give it up for a specific period of time. So Lent is a calendar event, but fasting is a spiritual activity. Fasting is a spiritual discipline. It's intentionally doing without something. So in other words, it's not fasting for my cell phone to go off into a land where the cell phone doesn't work. That's not the same thing as putting my cell phone and leaving it on the countertop. See, one is being forced, one is optional. Okay? So yes, you can fast from your cell phone. In Mark chapter 2, Jesus is asked a question, dude, why don't your boys fast? Okay, that's the Tom version. Here's what happened. This is one of the only times that Jesus teaches about fasting. And John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, and there were some people who came and asked Jesus about this, and they said, what is up with this? John's disciples are fasting, the Pharisees are fasting, but your boys don't. And this was Jesus' answer. How can the guests of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? They cannot as long as they have him with them. But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, and on that day they will fast. In the Hebrew tradition, a wedding, the celebration lasted a week. Those of us that have daughters that have to pay for a wedding, aren't you glad you don't have to pay for that? A week of party in celebration, and then eventually the new couple would go off. And what Jesus is trying to say is, that'd be stupid to party while the bridegroom's here. Wait till he leaves. And he's trying to say, I'm here. The party's still here. My boys aren't fasting because the bridegroom is in town. Okay? That's what he's using an everyday picture so that they can understand. And then he says this, nobody sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Because if he does, the new piece will pull away from the old and make the tear worse. Okay? Some of us, those of us that are old, we remember Sears Rough Rider jeans. $9 a pair. Am I telling the truth? Yes. And they were like steel. They lasted through anything. You had to wash them bad boys 12 times before you could walk in them. They were like this, like Robot Man. All right? And if you fell down and scuffed your knee got damaged before the jeans did. Am I telling the truth? Come on. Kids, you've not lived until you've had a pair of Sears Rough Rider jeans. Like aluminum pants. They're awesome. And then every once in a while, you'd get a tear in them. And so what'd your mother do? She ironed a patch on. Remember those? And then they'd peel off and look really silly. And then you'd have a really cool mom that back in the day when we had patches. Remember, and they would sew the little smiley face or the peace sign or whatever it was on your pants. And then the problem was you'd wash them and the patch itself would shrink and then it would tear the garment even more. And what Jesus is trying to say is if you have a pair of pants that have a hole in them, you can't put a piece inside of here and sew it to the edges, because when that garment is washed and shrinks again, this piece will shrink and it'll make the tear bigger. So you can't do that. Nobody would do that. He's trying to say, look, you got a hole in your robe, you're not going to go take care of it that way. He says, so that's not so he goes on and says, and no one would put new wine in an old wineskin. Because if he does, the wine will burst the skins and both will be useless. The wineskin is ruined. So he says, no, he pours new wine into new wineskins. A wineskin is a bag. It's like a leather bag. It's like, I don't know how to explain it to you. It'd be like putting wine in a Publix bag. Because it was made out of leather. And they would pour in so much wine, they would tie the top. And then as the wine would ferment, it would stretch the bag, because of the expansion of the gas inside. Now, once the bag is a certain point, it's going to break. So, if I have, let's say, a 1-quart bag and I have wine in it and it stretches to gallon size, and I use it, nobody would take a gallon of wine and put it into the gallon bag because it's going to break. It's been stretched to its limit. And what Jesus is trying to say is that would be silly to take brand new wine, fill up a new bag because the bag is going to tear and I'm going to lose the wine and I'm going to lose the bag. So what Jesus says is instead, we're going to have new wineskins. And what Jesus is trying to say is, you've got a whole new day, a whole new way of thinking. You need a new wineskin. You can't put new wine in an old way of thinking. Friends, Community Church, it's a new day. It's a new wineskin, and it's a new wine coming to this place. If we're not going to keep thinking the same way, we're not going to keep doing the same old thing we've always done. Why? Because the bag is stretched. The bag is at its limit. And we need new wine, so we got to have a new wine skin. And so what today is about is us getting ready for next week. It's for you and I to prepare for the wedding, for you and I to prepare for the bridegroom and the party. It's you and I making sure we're ready to go to the dance. Okay, that's what this is about. New wine, new wineskin. It's a new day. In the Bible, fasting was used for a whole lots of different things. These things: mourning, confession of sin, national penitence, preparation for some kind of revelation. In other words, looking for something from God, or it was made as an appeal to God. Let's take food, for example. Last week we talked about, give me today my daily bread. Give me through today. Give me enough nourishment to make it today. So if I willfully choose to avoid food, then I'm doubly dependent now upon God for my energy to get me through the day. So that's how fasting connects a physical activity with a spiritual discipline. But what I want you to think about is this: fasting in preparation, getting ready. Somebody in the room, I hope, can explain to me why I have to clean my house before I go on vacation. I can't understand this. I'm going to be gone for 5 days. What do I care if my house is clean or not? Because I'm what? Preparing for when I return. My mother has made it very clear to me that if and when she ever comes to visit, I need to have clean sheets and pillowcases on the guest room bed. Because if I don't, she'll make me go get them. So when my mother shows up, out of respect for my mother, I have already prepared and I have it ready to go. Those of us that have dinner guests or we have people over for a night and you know somebody has a food allergy, you make sure you don't have that food, true? And if you know they have a favorite kind of iced tea, you make sure you have it in the fridge. Why? Because you're excited about them getting there and you prepare ahead of time so that when they get there, they have no worries and no concerns. If you know what people love to eat, you'll do whatever you can to make it as smooth as possible, even in the pouring rain. Right, Patrick? Those of you that were here Wednesday night, Chill and Grill. We had about 3 inches of rain and there are 2 crazy people out there grilling, me and Patrick. Why? Because people needed food. Preparing, getting excited about it. Now, I want you to get excited about next week. And I want you to be prepared. I want you to be ready. Because you don't want your mama to show up and say, look, my sheets are dirty. Next week, you want to walk into this place saying, God, I'm ready for it. Bring it on. Both barrels. Let me have it. That's what you're looking for. And to do that this week, I'm going to ask you to do what Jesus said, which is to fast in preparation. Because when our body is the most disciplined, then our spiritual senses are the most alert. The more times I say no to me, the more times I can say yes to Him. The greater the thing I can discipline in my life and submit it to God, the more free I can be in Him. But if I continue to let these things dominate my life, it's harder to say yes to Him. Even good things sometimes need to be put in their place so that I can be who God needs me to be. You got to say no to me so I can say yes to Him. My greatest enemy walking around is not Satan. My greatest enemy is me. And I am in charge of me. Spiritual discipline so I can be ready for God. A couple other things you might want to know. You won't be happy about, but you might want to know. Fasting is actually good for your health. Cleans out your body. Makes your body live on its own resources for a few hours. You're not going to die if you miss a meal. I don't see very many of us in the room that are going to be, withered away by 2 o'clock. All right? Not likely. Okay? So fasting's good for your health. This is how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to eat to live, not live to eat. Right? You see in the commercial where the dude says about the $10 thing at Bonanza or wherever he's going, Golden Corral, and he wants all these different things, and the guy says, we can't do that for $10, that commercial. That's what it's become in America. It's not become anymore what's a great value for me. It's become how much can I get for it. And that's really the way that we function. And for me, I wake up in the morning, I got 2 questions. Where's the coffee and what am I having to eat? That's where I get started. Maybe I don't need to do that.